Meanwhile, Mexico is trying to pivot its economy away from the U.S. in the run-up to talks over the North American Free Trade Agreement. Officials are looking to solidify ties with its Latin American neighbors as they meet at the World Economic Forum in Argentina. One commodity is especially in the spotlight: corn. As one of the biggest buyers of American corn and soy, Mexico is looking at making deals with Brazil and Argentina. CNN's Rafael Romo joins me from Atlanta. And Rafael, this is a very interesting strategy, and I'm sure music to the ears of Brazil and Argentina. How realistic is it?
It is very realistic, and Maggie, it's what financial planners tell their clients all the time: diversify, diversify, diversify. And one way of pivoting away from the United States has to do with, as you said, corn, which is a staple in the Mexican diet because it's used to make tortillas. Well, a Mexican senator last month introduced a bill that would dramatically reduce Mexico's purchases of U.S. corn. And just to give you an idea, Maggie, Mexico bought nearly 25% of all U.S. corn last year, which represents about $2.6 billion. Mexico is the second biggest market in the world for corn from the United States, only behind Japan. And this is what Senator Armando Rios told CNN about his decision to introduce the bill to cut down on purchases of corn from the United States. Let's listen.
It doesn't make any sense to keep on buying that. We could change buying it to Brazil or probably to Argentina, and I think that's a good way to tell that people that these kind of relations, this hostile relationship has consequences, and I hope that generates changes with politicians in Washington.
Meanwhile, Mexican Economy Minister Ildefonso Guajardo has had a more conciliatory approach in dealing with the new U.S. administration. He told CNN recently that Mexico is open to renegotiating its free trade agreement with the U.S. and Canada, as President Trump has repeatedly suggested.
We are prepared to modernize NAFTA without a question. There are too many areas that 23 years ago were not relevant, like e-trade, like telecom, like the digital economy. So there is very much the possibility to improve NAFTA for Mexico, Canada, and the U.S.
And the minister also said that Mexico wants to have constructive talks with the U.S., but if negotiations turn sour, his country is ready to react accordingly. Maggie?
Rafael, I know as we talk about all these different economic issues and strengthening ties between Latin American countries there, certainly Venezuela is top of mind of so many leaders, especially given the fact that we are now seeing demonstrations, in some cases violent demonstrations.
Yeah, very violent. And in fact, there's a demonstration called for today. And exactly a week ago today, Maggie, the world learned about an unprecedented move by the Venezuelan Supreme Court, a ruling that was as surprising as it was extraordinary. The court ruled that the Venezuelan National Assembly, the legislative branch in the country, was in contempt of law, and therefore it was constitutionally permitted for the High Court to assume all legislative powers. This decision created chaos in Venezuela with several days of protests, including today. The opposition said that the court's ruling meant that all three branches of government were now effectively controlled by the socialist government of President Nicolás Maduro, and that the country's government had become a dictatorship. All this turmoil put pressure on the government, and the court, listen to this, reversed course 3 days later, but the damage had already been done, and that's why we have continued to see violent protests this week. And like I said before, Maggie, there's a demonstration that is also being planned for today in Caracas. Back to you.
And we will watch that closely. Rafael, thank you so much. Rafael Romo for us.